Now that I had Shirahoshi, I was able to surf south of Palatown to get to Cinnabar Island, home of the Fire-type gym, and I planned to have her conquer the gym too, assuming that her pod Ice typing wouldn't be too much of a problem. There were a lot of trainers and Wild Tentacle to fight along the way, so it ended up being quite a long trip, but no one ever complained about a little extra battle practice. While healing up at the Pokémon Center, I met a fellow trainer who said that the gym had been locked and the key might be somewhere in the abandoned mansion. I also found out from a local that scientists have been conducting experiments in the mansion, which is kinda odd considering there's an actual lab on the island. I went into the lab hoping to get my old Amber and Fossil revived, and actually met a lot of people who wanted to trade Pokémon with me. The offer to trade Venonat for a Tangela was very tempting, but I didn't have Nana with me at the time. I eventually found a scientist who said he could revive my prehistoric Pokémon and gave him the old Amber, which he said contained the DNA of Aerodactyl. He said it would take some time, so I headed off to explore the Pokémon mansion in hopes of finding the key to the gym in the meantime. The mansion was full of Raticate and Rattata, which made it a great place to train up Luffy some more. There were also hidden switches to get access to different areas of the mansion, and a lot of people who had gotten lost in there. When I walked into one of the previously sealed off rooms, I found the coffin bouncing off the walls in a panic, probably cause it also got lost, so I caught her before she hurt herself and I named her Jessie. I met a scientist on the top floor who said that his mentor used to live in the mansion, and told me to try jumping off the ledge to find my way around. I was skeptic, but it didn't look like a very high jump, so I hopped down and ended up getting chased by a Grimer. I realized I was back on the second floor, so I went up again and jumped off the much wider ledge. This was a much longer drop, but Shota graciously agreed to be a landing cushion for me. I ended up in a room with a scientist who wanted to keep me away so badly he had his electrodes self-destruct in an attempt to scare me off. Luckily, Hikaru could handle the blast, and then Shota came out to knock out his wheezing before he tried using a second self-destruct. I told the paranoid scientist I was just there to look for the gym key, and he didn't know anything about it being there but allowed me to go past to check the basement. I wanted to look around a little more before going downstairs, but ended up being chased by a muck. Hikaru had no problem knocking it out, but it still scared me enough to want to just find the key and get out of there as soon as possible. Down in the basement, I met another scientist who said that he liked to conduct experiments down there, and then eventually found the gym key. I turned around to face what I thought was another Grimer, but turned out to be some kind of sentient pink blob. It kind of freaked me out, but luckily Luffy was able to punch it out with no problem. But when I ran into another one of those pink blobs, it occurred to me that maybe they were the results of the scientist's experiments, and that creeped me out enough to want to leave right away. I returned to the lab and found out that my Aerodactyl had been successfully revived. I gave him the name Gyomei and then handed the scientist my fossil from Mount Moon to be revived. I also brought Nana into the lab with me and traded her over to get a Tangela, who was named Tangeny. Definitely not the name I would have gone with, but at least that's some more progress for my Pokédex. I figured I might need a backup plan for the gym in case Shirahoshi needed some help, and decided to go fishing for the first time. I fished up a Staryu who I caught right away and named Hisoka, but then realized that I would much rather train up Gyomei to be my backup plan for the gym. And so we surfed back to Palatown in search of weaker Pokemon to fight against, since Gyomei was only level 5. Also, just for the record, once I got to Palatown, I realized that Gyomei has wings, and I could have just taught him fly and we could have gotten there a lot faster. But better late than never, I taught him the move fly, and I also taught him steel wings so that at least he had some good moves to make up for his low level. Gyomei clearly needed a lot of training to get ready for the gym, and fortunately Hisoka was the 50th Pokemon I had registered in my Pokédex, meaning I could get a new reward from one of Professor Oak's aides, who was waiting for me between Fuchsia City and Route 15. I received the experience share, which I gave to Gyomei right away, and then made my way to Route 18 to begin his training. While training, we encountered a very feisty Doduo, and she actually managed to paralyze Victor with a tri-attack. Despite the paralysis, Victor managed to land a sleep powder, allowing me to catch her, and I gave her the name Gorgon. After an incredibly long training session, we headed back to Cinnabar Island on Gyomei's back and finally entered the fire gym. The plan going into the gym was to have Shirahoshi take out as many trainers as possible with Surf, and she proceeded to one-shot every single trainer's Pokémon without losing any HP, making our path to the gym leader Blaine the easiest so far. Once we got to Blaine, Shirahoshi was starting to get a little tired and was only able to use Surf another 2 times, and she gracefully one-shot his lead Growlithe and his Ponyta. Blaine's third Pokemon was a Rapidash. Shirahoshi hit it with a Confuse Ray, and then I switched over to Gyomei as Blaine used a full heal to cure Rapidash's confusion. It didn't matter too much though, because Gyomei was able to knock it out with a single Ancient Power. Blaine's final Pokemon was Arcanine. Gyomei landed an Ancient Power, took a Fire Blast, and then landed another Ancient Power for the win, thereby earning us the Volcano Badge, meaning we had just one more gym badge to earn before being able to take on the Elite Four. Along with the gym badge, Blaine also gave me the TM for the move Fire Blast, and told me not to waste it on a water Pokemon. Of course I wouldn't do that, but as I left the gym, it occurred to me that I didn't have a single Fire-type Pokemon with me. The only one I ever saw was the Vulpix outside of Celadon, and that ran away from me right away. But I made it this far without one, so surely I'd be fine completing my journey without a Fire-type Pokemon. Upon leaving the gym, I ran into Bill, who was thankfully still in human form. He said he was going to meet a friend of his on one island and invited me to go with him. Not being one to pass up an opportunity, I agreed and hopped on a private yacht with him and headed off for the Sevi Islands.